Welcome back to another special edition of Cape Ann Today. Heather and I are joined by Gloucester Mayor Greg Verga. We haven't caught up in a while, Greg. This is going to be nice. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys today?
We're
Great.
good. Actually, I did, Kory, but you missed it.
Yeah, I wasn't here for that one. Yeah, but so
I didn't want to
there
say
is a lot to. There's always a full plate going on. We have a litany of subjects we want to touch upon with you, Mr. Mayor. So right off the top, we know there was a lot of chatter in the last week or two about non-resident beach parking registration. Can you talk about that for a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah. So every year we all face the same thing, started on Memorial Day, and then right through Labor Day, we complain about the traffic. And every year we say, we residents, before I was in office, why don't we do something about that? Well, we're doing something about it. And I can't take credit for this. This train was pumping up at the station before I got here. And, we're just seeing it through. So the whole idea is to have online beach reservations for non-residents. No change for the locals. You get your beach sticker, you go show up at the beach, you get in. No change for the locals. So what it is for the non-residents is through this Yodel system. Yodel, it's not an app, it's through their website, which you can't access through your phone. You go online, you have up to 10 days before to register your spot. And there's a small 30-cent fee per transaction. That's the only charge to the resident, the non-resident. There's no charge to the city. So it's gonna, in my opinion, it'll be a much more efficient way of doing it. It'll help improve the flow into the city. It'll absolutely improve the flow into the lots because there'll be no cash change in hands. It's just, you hold up your phone, boop, they scan your QR code and you're in. So the efficiency at the gate is going to be so much better. And so people, instead of getting up in the morning and saying, oh, I'd like to go to the beach today, I'm going to hop in my car at 6 and start heading down 128 and hope I get a spot when I reach Gloucester. That's all out of the equation. You just go online ahead of time. It could be 10 days ahead. It could be 10 minutes before you leave your driveway. You go on and see there's a spot, you book your spot, and then you just drive at your leisure down to Gloucester, into Good Harbor, Wingashiek, or Stage 4 Park. Will it be without hiccups? Guarantee you it won't be. Yeah. But until we start, we can't start. So that's what we're doing now.
Right. So I have a question. What if, could a resident actually reserve a spot? I mean, it's kind of nice to be able to reserve your spot and know it's going to be there.
Well, I suppose they could reserve a spot and pay the fee, but
why would you do
can't
that?
Reserve, right? But why do? I mean, are you saying that can you go on and say my beach sticker number is such and such? No, it doesn't work that way. But I from what I understand, spots for residents are typically set aside in much greater numbers.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah, I don't think it's very often that a resident is turned away.
Okay.
Right. And so is there a cap on the number of non-residents who can reserve for either of those beach locations?
There is, and I don't know what the number is. Yeah. It's the same as it would be, in the old
normally.
Days,
okay.
They manually, say there's 1,500 spots at a lot, and it's like, okay, we're going to have 1,000 locals, 500 visitors, and I'm just throwing those numbers out. Mm-hmm. It's the same concept, only now those 500 are on the Yodel's website, and then as they're registered, 499, 498, boom, 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 down to 0. Mm. And it should, hopefully, people will be patient with us, but it should cut down on the traffic flow we have into the city on those gorgeous beach days.
Right. Yeah. So we did ask Ethan Foreman this question, but I'm going to ask you also, what other communities are using this system, and what communities are actually using Yodel that you know of?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I've got the notes right here. The Mass Department of Conservation and Recreation uses Yodel. Long Beach, New York uses Yodel. And as we know, Cranes Beach has a similar system, but it's not the Yodel app. So we're the first Massachusetts coastal community to use it, but we're not the first community to use it.
Okay. And is there any particular reason why you chose this system?
I'm not sure. That was before I got here. This was all in the works, but they put out the RFP and the bids came back, and this is the one that was selected.
Okay.
So imagine, would there still be signage on the highway and police on Concord Street?
Yes, we definitely can't. We can't stop doing that because, the signs usually say on 128, excuse me, beach is closed long enough so you can get off and turn around if you want to. And it'll be the same concept. I don't know what the language will be and how much we can fit on those signs, but some says online reservations only, and I don't know if we'll be able to put the site up there, but just so people know, because it's going to take a while for it to filter down to the average beach goer that, oh, by the way, we can't just show up at the gate anymore.
Yeah.
So we want to do everything we can to let them know that before they reach the point of no return, it's the Rotary, they know ahead of time that this is the way they have to do it. So, and then obviously if the reservations are filled, the sign will reflect that as well, that, no beaches are full, refer to the app as spaces open up. Because as people leave, we'll be able to resell those spots as well.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting too, right? Well, can we move on, Mayor Verga, to another topic?
It's your show. Go ahead.
Okay. So the number one issue when you were canvassing among constituents was the issue of private roads, or also called unaccepted ways and private ways, I guess.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on this now, and how are you working with the city council on it?
Great. Yeah. So maybe it wasn't number one with everybody, but it was definitely in the top three. And, and I knocked on doors in all 5 wards. And so whether it was someone talking about the condition of their road, which is public, or their road that's private, it was at the top of the list for all of them. And we have an issue here in Gloucester. Your notes, you pointed out 50 miles of private ways. And that's a lot of private ways. And most people don't realize it. I mean, in my old profession in real estate, when I listed a new property, the first thing I would do is call DPW, ask if it was public or private. And I would check that box in the MLS system, mainly because I don't want to get sued later, but most people don't even realize until, many years after they've moved into their home that it's private. And many people have probably lived in there for generations and never even realized it.
Right.
We used to take care of the potholes on the private ways that sort of fell by the roadside, no pun intended. And we need to get back to realizing that the people who live on private roads, which are about almost half of the roads, maybe not half the mileage, pay taxes too. So there are limitations. It's private property. I think we've discussed that before, that it'd be just like the DPW showing up at your yard and starting to dig a hole to plant a tree. They can't do that. It's private property. So what can we do? So we're putting together a working group for the private road issue. And the questions I want them to ask: what can we actually do based on today's Gloucester ordinances? What can we actually do today based on Mass General Law? What can we do if we change our local ordinances? And what can we do if we are able to get the state to change Mass General Law? So those are kind of the main questions we want to ask. And so we have 5 people. 2 of them are Val Gilman and Sean Nolan, who represent the 2 wards that have the biggest issues with private roads. I used to have Sean Nolan's job as the Ward 5 city councilor, and nothing's changed in the last 10 or 12 years since I was holding that position. And it's time to address it. The other members are citizens. We're not quite ready to reveal their names yet, so stay tuned for that. We have another announcement on another working group we'll announce later on in the show, but
Okay.
It's time to address this. We've been just kicking the can down the road for far too long, and it's time to get a definitive answer. What can we actually do?
Yeah, it's astonishing that you mentioned Sean Nolan, especially because we spoke with him last campaign season specifically about this, and we had no idea that I think it's wards 1, 4, and 5. I think it's more than half the roads are private, and nobody would know that. And so for decades, the DPW sort of gone above and beyond taking care of those roads when they're technically not supposed to.
Yes, exactly. Well,
or don't have to.
Right. Technically, they don't have to. So one good thing that's happened this year, not on the private road front, we will get there. Trust me, we're going to do something. But when we've been reviewing the budgets, as first-time mayor, I've sat through all the budget meetings with all the different department heads, go over their line by line. The DPW budget line item for potholes was $60,000. Okay. $60,000 to cover 140 miles of roads in this city is not very good. I've doubled it to 120. That's what's proposed. That'll go to the city council. We also are going to be looking at plugging into this fiscal year, which ends June 30th, $300,000 from free cash for Mike Hale to plug into his road repair budget to take care of for this year. Then we start July 1 of the next year. So I don't think he's going to get $300,000 spent and put in place by June 30th. But as long as he has it earmarked to projects, it's good for this fiscal year. So I'm just trying to make up for lost time, so to speak. You know, it's the pothole budget has been drastically underfunded for years because that's just the way it's going. The sad thing, though, is it's a petroleum-based product, and we know what happened with the price of petroleum. So hopefully we'll be able to make some headway in the public road scene this year, and then get some resolution on the private road issue as well.
Interesting.
So speaking of the oil-based products and inflation therein, the state every year sort of allocates money to towns for road repair, right? And that is the Chapter 90 law.
Mhm.
And I think you've already been warned that inflation is doing a number on that ability to support towns. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, it's, you know, because people says, well, why don't we just take all of the private roads and then add to the miles of our chapter 90 total? But it's not mile for dollar, you know what I mean? So it's kind of not worth it for us to take on every private road, because if we take them on, we take on all the responsibility of the private roads. But chapter 90 is, yeah, it doesn't cover a fraction. I think the number 600,000 sticks in my head of what we
That's
got.
what I think too. Yeah. Yeah.
Which doesn't go very far, even in the days before inflation and the oil price spike. So we can never depend on the chapter 90. It's sort of like a nice piece to have, but it's never going to cover us every square inch of the city. I mean, we have, like I said, 140 odd miles of road to take care of. And it's a, you know, what does Mike Hale say? It's like a 30-year cycle is what it should be. Some of these roads were up to, 20-year, we're up to 30 or 40 year before we can get to it. And some of these roads, you know, you drive around the city as well as I, haven't seen a full paving for decades.
Right.
You know, and it's focusing on the main thoroughfares has been the way it's been done for the longest time, and rightly so, because that's the ones most people are driving on.
Yeah.
And we haven't really even talked about the fact that some of these private roads are used heavily by the public. And
Yes, exactly.
burden.
That's another aspect that I want this working group to look at, is some of these roads that are you wouldn't know are private because we drive on them every single day. You know, you think private road, you're thinking somewhere in the woods in West Gloucester, you know, somewhere out in the middle of you know, Bayview or Lanesville. But you'd be surprised, you know, Shore Road, Brightside Ave, you know, Beach Road. These are all private roads, and we drive on them all the time.
Yeah. Beach Road is really heavily used.
Absolutely. All right, Greg, moving on to the next topic. You touched upon road repair being in the top 3 that was discussed by constituents last fall. I'm sure affordable housing had to be in there somewhere as well. Do you want to talk about the recently reconstituted Affordable Housing Trust?
Sure. So they're meeting tonight. I don't know how soon this will air, but they met before. If this is being,
Right.
If tonight's already passed, folks, they met on Monday night.
Yeah.
But so this will be their second meeting with the new group, and yeah, there were some vacancies. We've reconstituted tonight. They'll be voting for a chair and vice chair. They never really had much direction. They were sort of a reactive group, and I'm trying to get to the point where they can be more proactive. We've in the previous administration had committed the funds from the short-term rental tax to affordable housing, but it was never really put there. We did it for the first time, I think about 2 months ago. We made a transfer from free cash into the Affordable Housing Trust of about $51,000. Not a lot, but you know, it's a start, and it is something that they can count on year after year, at least while I'm here. We've got everybody during the campaign, all the candidates, 6 of us ran for mayor, countless people ran for city council, ward, and at-large seats. Affordable housing was one of the top issues that was discussed at the debates and other forums. And now we have a chance to do something. We have a funding stream. We have a affordable housing trust that's, ready to go, that a good diverse group of people who know what they're doing. So now it's a matter of taking the next step. We had talked about identifying some city-owned lots. We're not quite there yet to announce any specific ones, but the idea is to create deed-restricted affordable housing. And everybody's afraid of the word developer, so I'm going to use the word builder. We're not builders in the city. The city, the old days, the vocational school built houses every once in a while, but we aren't builders. We have land available. We need to find some partners, builders, organizations, whether it's Habitat for Humanity, Harbor Light, whatever. But that's what I want the Affordable Housing Trust to do, is sort of build bridges and strengthen bridges with some of these organizations that work with us, because we need to start getting more units on the market. And people have to understand, they think affordable housing, and sometimes their mind goes right to, public, inner city housing, and it's federal money, and it's the poorest of the poor, which is an absolute need still in pretty much every city and town in this country. But affordable, you could be making a family of 3 or 4 making, I don't know, $80,000 a year and still qualify to live in, quote, affordable housing. So these are our teachers, our new firefighters, our new police, artists who want to stay here and live and work in Gloucester. So there's a lot of everybody knows somebody who would benefit from affordable units, and we have a ways to go. We are not, even if we took every city-owned buildable lot, and I'm not talking downtown or Burmers Field, which is part of the rumor mill. That's not the case, folks. But if we took these lots that are sprinkled throughout the city and put duplexes on each one, we're not going to make a dent. We have a long way to go. We need to partner with people, and we need to make it a process that's fair and efficient. Still gives the public a chance to weigh in on what goes in there. But to use the phrase I said before, until we start, we can't start. And this is the way we're going to start.
Yeah. So do you have any sense of how many parcels in the city would be available, might be available? Like, what are we talking about? 20?
Oh, no, nowhere near that. I mean, we started with a big list. We start to eliminate what's on public, what isn't serviced by the sewer, what's close to other utilities already in the road. Once we start to take out all of these criteria, we're left with a smaller and smaller pool. So I'm hoping we have a few that we can announce and see if we can get some support to make something happen. But it's not going to be 20, nowhere near that.
Okay. And you must be feeling a little bit gun shy about doing this, given the current climate with the conversations around zoning ordinance changes.
I feel empowered to do it, because everybody who's fighting these ordinances is saying we need affordable housing. So it's like, okay, well, we'll see what happens Tuesday at the city council, and win, lose, or draw, we're moving forward with the affordable housing aspect of it. So all those people who've been fighting these tooth and nail while saying we need affordable housing, I would expect them to get behind this move to make affordable housing a priority, because it's a real tangible way of trying to make something happen. This isn't just, let's talk about it. I want to put forward some actual proposals and see if we can make it happen.
Yeah, it's critical. There's such little inventory right now. And I think you make an important point, but people have their certain stigmas attached to affordable housing. I don't think people realize how many are actually eligible for it, or something like fuel assistance, which serves more than half the community as well. It's pretty astonishing.
It is, and I'm going to get on my soapbox. I benefited. I'm here where I am today. I was on fuel assistance. We were on WIC. I got Pell grants. When I was a kid, we were on food stamps. And Medicare. All these things are there to help people, give them the hand up. And I think that some people tend to forget that's what they're there for, and it shouldn't be looked at as a negative, because it's really,
yeah,
it's right, exactly.
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about the VA, the Treasured VA Clinic in Gloucester. There is conversation about the VA administration closing the Gloucester site down and moving it to Salem. Can you talk about your efforts to stop this process? I think you have a team there, right, who are interested in
I got wind from an old connection my father had from when he was in the State House that just to give you a heads up about this discussion around consolidating Gloucester and Lynn's VA clinics to Salem. And so that's when I got on the phone with Senator Tarr and Rep. Ferrante and Congressman Moulton's offices, and we're all on the same page. We all want to make sure that we maintain what we have. You know, our veterans who are getting older, or veterans who have been more severe need. You know, that we shouldn't make it difficult for them to get to where they need to go for help. Excuse me, but this is after speaking to Adam Curcuru, our local veterans agent, this is a 15-year plan here. So this is not something that's right around the corner. In 15 years, you can think of how many presidents we could have in 15 years and how many times this could change. But that being said, we can't look at it, the local elected officials can't look at it as well. It's 15 years down the road. We need to be on top of it, and that's what we're doing. We're in communication, and we're going to do everything we can to maintain the status quo. Unfortunately, you know, the federal government moves at a glacial pace, and so and they don't always listen to the locals, the people with the boots on the ground. But we're on top of it to the best of our ability.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize the challenge it is for a lot of veterans just to get service and transportation to get care now.
Correct. Yeah.
With it being centrally located as it is. So, okay, fascinating there as well. All right, Mr. Mayor, do you want to talk about the ARPA funds? And there is a working group that you have put together.
Yes, we should have a press release for that going out next week. We're going to have an internal meeting with the members, and I could read off the members. So it's basically focused on the city's EDIC and CIAB boards, 3 members from each board, as well as Tony Gross, who's going to be a city council representative. So Carl Guston, I've asked to chair it. Members of the CIAB, Paul Romery, who's the chair, Joe Favazza, which I'm sure you're both familiar with, and Kelly Brancaleone, who's a new member of CIAB. EDIC, we have Tom Belf, the chair of that. And who else? Oh, sorry, Jerry Oppenheim and Gretel Seeley, who will be joining the EDIC in the coming weeks when Ruth Pino steps down. So the idea with them is to get out to the 5 wards and get out maybe virtually, but to listen to what the goals are for people, what their desires are. We have $23 billion to spend. I mentioned before, and we mentioned just now before we get started recording, about the sewer treatment plant. I mean, a good chunk of it, this 23 million is probably going to have to go there. But I'd like to have some, you know, we're still talking millions of dollars left over for other things that will benefit the most people. That's what I want to do. What's the most good for the most people? That's how I see how we spend this money. And so we want to set this group up to start their listening posts with basically explain a preamble of these are some of the things that ARPA can be spent on. These are some of the things that it can't be spent on. What's on your mind? You know, I don't want them to be leading the group, the residents in the thoughts, like sort of a one-way street. Give us the info. We told you what you can and can't do. What's sort of your priorities? So we want to do this relatively quickly. I'd say sometime in June, have this wrapped up, back to the mayor's office for some internal conversation to sort of, you know, digest what they heard, and then come up with some real plans of how to actually start spending some of the money. The city council at their last meeting 2 weeks ago, they're meeting tomorrow, 2 weeks ago, voted to accept the money. That was the first step that now allows the administration to start cutting checks. So even though it's unilaterally in my hands, I've assured the city council that I'm going to keep them posted every step of the way before we start cutting checks and, you know, just going crazy with it.
Do you have the ultimate say in where the money is dispensed?
Yes. And I think it was this topic at the council meeting where Jeff Murphy used the phrase, great responsibility, great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
I appreciated the Spider-Man quote, but but he's absolutely right. You know, so I'm not going to be doing this in a vacuum. It's, you know, transparency is one of the pillars of my campaign and how I run the day-to-day operation in the mayor's office, and it will continue as far as ARPA is concerned.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And lastly, Mr. Mayor, I want to touch upon the return of St. Peter's Fiesta. And we also just heard that the Horribles Parade is slated to return this year as well. Does it feel like we finally turned the corner and summer is back on in the city of Gloucester?
I hope so. I mean, it looks like we're going to have a good year. Yeah, the Fiesta was very exciting. I met with a couple of the reps, Joe Novello and Anthony, came in and talked about the plans for this year, and it's exciting news. And I'm glad to hear that there was concern about the Harville Spray because they hadn't pulled the permit yet for because there's road closures, and I understand they have now. So that's great news. I mean, this will be the third year, right? We didn't have it 2 years in a row for either of
Right.
those. So yeah, we're excited about it. So it's a good summer.
Me
It's gonna
too.
be a good summer.
I'm right. Well, you've noticed like the tourists have been here for a little bit now, which is exciting to see.
Yeah, I mean, with Coda, the success of Coda, I think
Mm.
we're going to be bumped up on the visit list. So we need to do everything we can to make it a great visit for people.
We need a new bar. We need the Coda bar. We've got the Crow's Nest.
Oh, it's
where
coming.
everybody's-
It'll be Coda. Oh yeah, Coda ice cream.
Fratty's
Coda.
is-
Yeah.
Yeah, Patty's gonna be all right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's great. Well, congratulations on that too, being the mayor of the city in the spotlight. So on Oscar night, that's great.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, geez, that and then rolling into the 400th next year. It's
Right.
things are on the up and up, which is great to see. So, Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor, anything else you want to relay to the citizens before we let you get back to work?
No, I just think that's it. Again, we ask for patience when it comes to the beach stickers, the beach reservations, but we are confident that we are going to get somewhere. And if they want to go to Spotify, check out the new Paul's on Fire tune, do that.
Yeah, we had a little debut of that in our interview, right?
That's right.
Playing some of those tunes. Yeah. Nice.
We got to get you on a float for the Horribles Parade. Right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, get him on a flatbed truck and jam for a bit.
Or how about Minglewood? Do you play out in the summer?
Yeah, let's see. I've done a few open mics at Minglewood. It's been a while, but yeah, I should get back there.
Well, we're looking forward to all of that.
Great
Great
thank
stuff.
you.
Mr. Mayor, we appreciate your time and your work, and we hope to catch up with you soon. And let's do something like this in person one of these days.
One of these days, I'm right across the street, folks. Just I'll head over to your studio anytime you want.
You got it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. See you.
Bye.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.